just 30-40 minutes ago, finished playing Circle of Hands, the third venture, the first venture run by Ivan. The players were myself and Eloy. Eloy returned with Hadrick for a second outing, which was cool to see, and I introduced a new character to the mix known as Kai Ernst. I wasn't really sure about this decision. The game itself mentions that the very first session that you play as a group, you play one of the characters that you created, and then all the other sessions, it's just an open pool and you draw whoever you think is most appropriate. And we didn't really discuss it. We've talked about it. So in the first two sessions, Eloy and Ivan did not choose the characters I put into the mix, although in the way the game normally runs, that would have been an option in session 2. And so they left them for me to be able to use first if I wanted to. So what it's come around to is that I chose between between the two characters that I made for no particular reason other than to experience that for myself, right? First session, choosing between the characters you're most familiar with. So the fourth session, it'll be an open pool. Anybody can play anything that they haven't already played in the previous session, meaning Ivan can't play Ingolf, Eloy can't play Hadrick, and I can't play Kai, but any other combination is open. And that's kind of cool. So I want to talk about that a little bit. One of the things that Circle of Hands does is it challenges you in the moment. What character are you going to play, right? You hear the setup, and then you have to choose who you're going to play and why. So then you select, and you're there kind of like, oh, do I really know how to portray this guy? We've heard Eloy talk about, can I portray him in a different fashion? And we've heard Ivan talk about, will the other people who are not privy to my own private thoughts, will they understand what it is that I'm doing? So that's interesting. So I found taking on this character of Kai Ernst, a character I created many years ago, but never played. I found him to instantly have a voice. Sometimes you have the experience where you kind of fumble around trying to figure out exactly how a character is going to be portrayed in its initial appearance, and then as you start to get feedback from the setting, from the setup, and from the other NPCs, all of those interactions kind of mold you and guide you into a direction where you feel like you are in harmony with the game, with the character, with your own interests, and that sort of thing. Discovering the character is what I like to call it. And sometimes that can be instantaneous, and sometimes it can take many sessions. This was one of those moments where it was instantaneous. I opened my mouth and Kai Ernst's voice came out. The very simple character design spoke to me very directly, giving me cues. This is a person who comes from a place of an ambitious drive. This is a person who is cunning, right? This is someone who recognizes and is looking for advantage, cunning plus ambitious. This is a person who is fierce. This is a person who's not one to sit back and hesitate and think, oh, maybe, what if right? He's not a calculating, cowardly manipulator. He's an in-your-face, right? Applier of force. He has goals. He wants to attain them. He's a warrior. He is a knight in the classic sense. He is out to make changes in the world. He's out to resist the things that must be resisted, and so on and so forth. And so this is someone who owns the spaces that he's in. This is someone who doesn't shy away from uncomfortable truths. This is someone who is fierce. And so it was interesting for me. I described it in the post-session chat as feeling like as the session is beginning, kind of like working your way up on a roller coaster. And I don't mean the sense of rails, I mean the sense of something's about to happen, right? The solidity of the situation is about to drop away, and pretty soon we're going to, as we go over the top into the part where play happens, we're just going to feel like everything is opened up before us and we can go anywhere and do anything, and we are in fact falling, and we're going to continue to fall unless we do something to save ourselves, that kind of thing, that anticipation of action. And that's what it was like for me when we finished the description of entering into the area and then, had action turned over to us. It very much felt like, wow, it was a very freeing sense of play, not constrained by the nature of it being, technically ventures are one-shots. You have that one session in order to consider it to be resolved or unresolved or whatever. So it's kind of an interesting feeling, and I liked it. It's a familiar feeling, but it's not one that I've been having a lot in Hangouts play built around one-shots. Hey, let's try this game, or hey, let me run this game for you so you can see what it's like. That kind of thing doesn't tend to foster this, but this still managed to do so that was nice. The session was very short. One of my reflections is that the session is very short, and that's entirely my fault. My schedule has been a major limiting factor on this experiment, and we didn't know that we were going to even be able to play today until about 35 minutes before we played. So, my thanks go out to the other two for being so gracious to be willing to adjust their evenings like that. This is something that we have talked about privately before, but talking about it and actually doing it are different things. So it was nice, like I said, that they were so gracious to accept this intrusion. Ivan had a very long day. Eloy had a very long and busy day. I myself had a very long day yesterday, which didn't involve any actual sleep or anything like that. And so, then I was up and out of the house early and dealing with the dogs and everything. So it was and now my work day is starting. So it's a sign of friendship, and not just the lure of a game or an activity or a chance for fun. It's that bond that develops between people who share interests and discover that they share other aspects as well. So it's an important thing, and one I don't want to abuse. It was fun to be just a player. This is my next reflection. It's fun just to be, as a player, to be able to step back from, putting an unfamiliar game out there publicly. And I found that a lot more of the rules were floating in an accessible space in my head in that position. Of course, yes, I've been living with the rules longer. I've read the book more times. I've gone back and specifically looked at things that I felt uncomfortable with in the 2 sessions that I ran. So I have done things actively to address that feeling of not being prepared enough. But it was very different to recognize, once again, the difference in cognitive load and in what you tend to think about and have to think about when you're sitting in the game master's chair is when you're sitting in a player's chair. So that additional freedom allowed me access to rules that I probably would have looked up if I had been game mastering, but just kind of knew as a player, so that was nice. Okay, character choice. Both Eloy and I chose wizards. This means every spell is available to us, and spell choices flowed faster than they have before. We were far more aware of the different spell options and willing to play with them a bit in line with how the game talks about magic, how spells can be combined, and how combat and dice rolls work. You state your intention. This is what I want to do with the thing. Let's see if I'm successful. And all that was very satisfying. This was my clearest sense yet, likely because I was a player and looking at the game with the intention to imagine it, with the intention to navigate within it, rather than as the game master imagining the world with the intention of describing it. Full stop. Right? The sense of how alien a place this was very palpable this time, and Ivan did some really cool things that I liked, such as describing this beast of burden, like, where did this come from, and the fashion and the culture of the people. This was the first time a venture took us outside of our homeland. We were venturing in the region known as Tamarian, which has different geography, has different customs, slightly different, regional accent, and all of this stuff. It's still the same overarching culture, but there are distinct and obvious regional differences, and it was nice to be able to sense and feel them and see what I had read in the text reflected in what we were experiencing as characters. So that was really cool. One of the concerns that's been expressed by Eloy in our play is my character notably different? It's always me playing my different characters. Is there a difference between Hadric and whoever else I might play? Otto is the other example that we've seen. And for my money, the answer is definitely yes. My experience bringing Kai to the table today is very different from characters I play in other games, although he's built along similar interests, right? A martially capable character with access to powerful magics and the like. That template can be seen pretty clearly through a lot of the characters that I've played online and off. But Kai is nothing like my other characters, and when I watch Otto as portrayed by Eloy, and as I watch Hadric as portrayed by Eloy, I can see, and I'm starting to see more of, as I get to know him better, the little things that he does to bring that character out. All right, this is a heretical priest. What caused that? What kind of reaction do people have to defrocked, right? To priests who have fallen? What kind of reaction do we expect? And who has been a wizard, which is someone that no one trusts, right? And who is now part of this sweeping change, this social movement, this circle, which is taking it upon itself to ride out and right wrongs according to its own will. How are people really going to react to this? And then to understand that this character at his core is a nice guy who will get down in the dirt with anyone and help them with their labors, who will tend to their needs, who will listen to their complaints and commiserate with them side by side like brothers. Like this man, I mentioned in a chat as soon as the game was over that Hadric is my vote for main character, if such a thing exists, because I desperately want to know more about him, and the opportunity to get inside Hadric as a player, right? To take that incredible vehicle of characterization that Eloy has put together and take it for a drive myself. That's very enticing. This is a curious alchemy of sadness and happiness, of darkness and light, in tune with the game. It's such a wonderful character, and he's very different from Otto. And it'll be interesting to take Otto out and be able to add my 2 cents to how those two characters are different. And it'll be interesting to see someone take Kai, to take Ingolf. So characterization, ultimately we keep coming back to character. This game screams character, the portrayal of character, the investment in seeing through someone else's eyes. And the game itself is talking to you about, you can make changes. There are things out here which are vile, utterly vile, unacceptable. It's impossible to accept that humans treat each other this way, that parts of this are drawn from our own history, the way that we have actually lived and claim to have clawed our way out of. And yet when we look around, we see this bestiality, this villainy everywhere, tacitly accepted, or at least a blind eye turned to it. And in this game, you don't have to accept it. This is not a subtle point. And it's a very strong foundation for play. What should I do as this character? What is this game is about? You know what the game is about as soon as the venture starts. So, very powerful. I really enjoyed my chance to play. I'm really looking forward to the next one. I hope we get to play a little longer. If we don't, it will be my fault. But anyway, so in terms of recap, to go with all this reflection, we rode into a place in Tamarian, and all we really knew about it, other than it would be like any other village in Tamarian, is that an artifact had been found in the region. Something dating back to the previous culture. There's monoliths here, and there's ruins there, and here is an actual artifact from this ancient culture. What could it be? So 2 wizards of the circle combine, the heretical priest and wizard and the gentry, born and bred warrior, wizard, now gray wizards, ride into this place. Curiosity, spread the good news. People are expecting them. Of course they are. People are starting to talk about them. People aren't terribly friendly. This is another arrival, and while it's not normal to do arrivals in Circle of Hands, it felt right to Ivan, and we went with it. So we arrive in the area, and we meet laborers and the like, and Hadrick instantly starts circulating among the laborers, and this is beneath Kai's notice. Labor is something that needs to happen in service of his goals, and so he sought out the gentry, and quite quickly becomes disenamored of the local leader. This is someone he finds it difficult to respect. He doesn't understand how this person could be a regional leader. And one of the first things that comes out of this leader's mind is how he has been part of a movement to kill the previous king for treachery. So he plays the politeness game. He is invited into the house. He arranges for a feast to be held in his own honor so he can meet more people. And as he's moving into his guest rooms, he discovers that a black wizard, a vile but yet seductive woman from Spur, is also present. And to prevent spoilers, I'll cease there, but this is the catalyst. We've got great suspicion of the current leader of these people, who doesn't seem like he deserves it, and the presence of this black wizard in the house. And this artifact in the background that suggests something is special about this region. So the actual play is not very long. It's pretty much 2 hours on the nose, followed by a brief commentary. And I do hope that you'll go and watch it and see what Circle of Hands is all about if you haven't seen it before, or see how Circle of Hands runs in Ivan's hands. And let us know what you think, because part of this sharing process is for interaction with people who have questions about it, people who are trying it themselves, people who are about to try it. We can all learn and talk about the game together, either on our channels, on Ivan's channel, on my channel, or at the Adept Play website. Okay, take care.